Our work begins with a commute from West Point Harbor at the crack of dawn, advancing through waters of South San Francisco Bay. When the sky is clear, it's usually calm during the morning hours. Spring and summertime are the best seasons for tower repair work. These are also the seasons for birds to build nests and raise their young, so we have to make sure they are protected while we work.
While its foundation upgrade would be fairly simple on land, we were faced with a very significant challenge on the bay because of environmental reasons. Okay, so we had to keep the nesting birds from being disturbed, from nests to be abandoned, or babies to fall in the water.
Tower 154 is closest to the eastern shoreline. Cliff swallows have decided this tower is a prime spot. Each morning, we arrive to their busy routine, gathering flying insects. The chicks are always hungry for more.
I had to figure out a way how to save the birds if they happen to fall off from their nests. We have worked on the towers. We had a civil crew drilling holes, 3/8 by 4 feet deep. They make a lot of noise for the birds themselves. I built similar, it looked more like a hammock in case it did fall while I use a screen.
The swallows are using mud nests that are lined up underneath the bases of some of the towers, with the nests positioned above the water line. We put up catch nets underneath the tower foundations at towers that had swallow colonies, and those nets ended up catching some of the young swallows if they ended up falling prematurely from their nests. So the nets were successful in supporting these colonies while the crews were able to complete their tower repairs. It's a challenging environment to work in, since the crews are staging repairs from a small barge that floats next to the concrete tower foundations. There is not much room for construction to maneuver in, and there are multiple considerations such as the repairs themselves, in addition to protecting the natural environment.
Work is going on at more than one tower at a time, and protecting the natural environment is a team effort. Each day brings us new surprises.
I worked with concrete a lot. I have never worked with concrete on a barge on the water in the middle of the bay.
The crew has specially designed a mixer on a platform to pour concrete into a container, a pod with a long chute, so the concrete transported up by crane can be shoveled into forms they've built on the tower.
This job was a little different from everybody, from every other job we've done. Challenges as of trying to secure dust, it won't escape. I went to pour concrete on a bucket with a crane. We couldn't spill any in the water, but we figured everything out pretty quickly.
Since the towers are basically tiny islands surrounded by open bay waters, the potential effects of work on protected species is really minimal. We ended up focusing on double-crested cormorant and cliff swallow colonies that are using these tower islands for nesting and raising their young.
When we first arrived, the young cormorants were still practicing flight and very dependent on their parents. Cormorants are diving birds, and within a few weeks the fledglings were independent enough to take a swim. Soon they will swim together, the juveniles learning from the adults. On occasion, a juvenile flies down to the barge while the crew members set up for work in the morning.
To the workers' credit, they were doing such a great job, doing the job in a safely manner and not disturbing the animals, that it seemed like at one point the birds even became familiar with the barge, the people. Once we're in the towers, our biggest hazard was falls from heights. So one of the things that I like what the management team did was they introduced different boats that were kept on site specifically for rescue purposes.
Out here, we always depend on the wind and the tides, and some days begin with rough waters. A young western gull is soaked, too weak to fly out. We bundle it up in towels and transport it to a nearby rescue center. They will raise the gull until it's healthy enough to be returned to its home.
There were harbor seals everywhere around the metal island where we were working, monitoring the tower repairs. And these harbor seals were very shy, but they would inch closer and keep an eye, and they poked their snouts out and they would poke their heads out and sniff the air close to the barge.
It was our lunch hour when this young sea lion climbed on board to take a nap. Crew members watched from a distance as it watched us and then made itself comfortable. Later, the crew resumed their construction work while the sea lion fell asleep, woke up to change its position, and went to sleep again. Being surrounded by water turns cleanup and containment into a whole production.
These guys have been great catching things by hand, putting in a bucket. We've even used saran wrap on some of the supports. That was a new thing that I've never done.
Careful containment of dust, chipped concrete, or any other particles or pollutants is an essential part of protecting San Francisco Bay. Kiddie pools prove to be an especially useful tool because they're inexpensive and easy to obtain, and they can be used to contain leaks and spills. When materials inevitably end up on the floor of the barge, the crew carefully shovels or sweeps them up, places them in a heavy plastic bag, and then takes them to the shore for proper disposal.
There's another phase to this maintenance work that needs to be done out here. The concrete foundations, the piers, the beams that are holding this foundations together, they need to be maintained.
Starting off, our containment is made out of steel. It's 3x4 square tube in the bottom, and then our saddles are 2x4 saddles. So we got center supports, we got 2 center supports, and then we got on the piers itself we have a deadman on top, which is basically 4x12s with all 3 on them. It stabilizes the top and all around all the way down to our platform, which holds everything in place.
We are getting the work completed real close, 3 weeks ahead of schedule. So yes, being safe and being ahead of schedule, that just makes it a good job.
On this project, we've had sea lions, seals, cormorant chicks. We put a cliff swallow chick back in the nest, and we presume it was successful. It didn't leave the nest after that until it took flight, so that was wonderful. Yeah, I've had a good time out here. It's been good to work with the crew. Easy crew. I've been really fortunate to work with them. If you ask them to do something, they do it. That's great. As an environmental inspector, sometimes you do worry that you're adding burden to people, but these guys made it easy.